Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. This is Divine Disclosures. My name is Alicia, and today I have a message from the Lord called, There is a Light That Never Goes Out. Now, when he brought me this message, the first part of it anyways, it was a couple of years ago, and I was learning about what's called the 3 days of darkness. And there were theories saying that the lights won't work, like electricity. Some were going as far as to say candlelight won't, like you won't be able to even have candlelight, right? Well, the Lord kept putting a song in my head. And that's how he usually speaks to me. He'll bring up songs, and that'll like jog my memory of something, or it will get me focused on a certain subject that he wants me to start thinking about and praying about. And so he brought the song, There is a Light That Never Goes Out. And I saw these fairy lights in my room. And they are battery powered, right? So I thought they were out. They went out. And then they came back on again. I don't know if it was the next day or a couple days later, but they came back on. And they kept staying on. And I'm like, well, when are these going to burn out? And they didn't. Like, I can't even tell you how long they stayed on. I mean, eventually they did, but he was showing me through this that during the 3 days of darkness, and during any dark period that you might go through, any traumatic event that you might have to endure, that there is a light that never goes out. And that light is the Holy Spirit. And he wants me to share with you an experience I had. He brought it to my remembrance in the past 2 days that something amazing happened that I couldn't fully comprehend because I couldn't really accept or explain it away when it happened, and so I never thought about it again. Now, I'll get into how I got in this situation. I was in a situation where there was a flood. My car was driven into the floodwaters. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I was on a mountain. I thought taking the mountain route would prevent me from getting into any floodwaters, okay? Because I was in the city, I saw the waters rising, I didn't want to drive through those, and I went up the mountain instead. Well, apparently there was some kind of creek or something that had risen because this tropical storm had come in, and it was rushing across the road, okay? So I drove into these waters because I couldn't see. It was very, very dark, and all water looks the same on a mountain that doesn't really have a lot of lights, right? So I remember I had my 18-month-old daughter with me, and I stopped. I called 911 from my phone. I didn't get to talk to anybody. I don't think, because I don't know if I talked to somebody or not. But I had to call them, and that was the only number I could call because I had no service. So I was able to make a 911 call, and that was it. Now, you couldn't charge the phone anymore either because the water would eventually start filling my car up. I went into survival mode. I went into very focused decision-making time. And I opened up my sunroof because I didn't want the battery to die and me not be able to escape from the car. And I went to the back seat. I got my child out of the car seat, and I had one of those baby carriers that you strap on. So I strapped her on to my front, And I got up on top of the car and I sat. And I waited, hoping that, 911 would send somebody. And I remember I had a Bible. Okay. Now, it was like a Joyce Meyer study Bible, so it was pretty thick. And I was like, okay, I want to read my Bible and pray. And I put it on top of the car, and I look at it, and I try to read, and I couldn't read because I was too stressed. Okay? Now, I decided, let's just put my faith into practice. Keep praying, keep believing. I knew that whether I was rescued or not, that God was with me. I tried practicing in my head, how I would let the water carry me down, and I would just go with the flow and be calm and make decisions, of maybe trying to reach out to a tree to catch myself. And so then I went through, how I would prepare myself for if I were to go under and, lose my breath and lose my life. So I was preparing myself if that was the Lord's will. And then I just remember sitting there, waiting and looking around at my environment and just preparing for anything. I do see a woman. She drives into the water until her car stops. She can't drive anymore. And I wanted to go out and rescue her, right? But the Lord brought to my remembrance a childhood favorite TV show, and it was called Rescue 911. And he kept bringing the scene where they were showing the reenactment of somebody jumping in the water and trying to save somebody drowning. And the instructions from Rescue 911 were, if you ever encounter this situation, don't jump in the water and try to be a hero and save people. Well, I don't listen to instructions. When it comes to saving somebody, I'm going to do what I can do. And everything inside of me wanted to go out and help this lady because she was a little bit older. And I knew that with the baby strapped on me, that maybe this wasn't the greatest idea. And so I listened to what the Lord was conveying to me at that time, and I did not jump in the water. Well, sure enough, this lady, the water keeps rising and rising in her car, and she ultimately drowns. So I'm like, okay, I hope that doesn't happen to me. And I keep praying, and eventually it gets dark. And I start losing hope. And at the very last moment, when my car starts moving because the waters are going faster and they're rising rapidly all of a sudden, this is like 3 hours later, I'm looking back and forth because I see rescue people on one side, and I'm like, are they going to come and try to rescue us? Don't they have a boat or something? Like, because they were sitting there for at least 45 minutes, I would think, and they never came in to rescue me. So I just keep praying, and I keep believing, and I'm staying as strong as I possibly can. And somehow, I didn't even see them come in. But somehow, at the very last moment, they prayed, called their family members, and had an excavator go through the waters. And they rescued me and my child because right before my car was about to be washed down the mountainside, it hit the edge of my vehicle. Okay? Now, I feel like there was an angel holding the vehicle at that time, giving us just enough time for the guy to step on the vehicle and grab me to take me in the excavator. Because in a second, my car was washed down immediately after I had exited the top of the vehicle. And so I knew it was a miraculous rescue. But But the point of this message is, remember how I said it got dark and I started losing hope? How did it get dark if it was 11 o'clock at night and I couldn't see in the first place? All of my memories were of daylight. It was broad daylight. Not the moment it happened, but when I got my daughter and I put her on top of the vehicle, it was broad daylight. It was as if I had just gotten off of work and just driven into that. That's what it felt like. And like I said, I have memories of like it becoming darker and darker throughout the evening. It was broad daylight, okay? Until it got dark, until it got nighttime. But remember, it was 11 o'clock at night when this happened. And so the Lord caused this light to shine in the darkness. And I didn't even realize it was happening. It was just a change of consciousness, and I don't know how he did it. I don't know if it was just in my mind that I could literally see all the trees, because I could see the trees. I could see in between. I could see the color of the water. I was strategically planning my escape and how to survive through this situation. It wasn't dark until later, and I started getting scared because it's like I can't see now. Okay? He caused it to be daylight in the darkness. He was shining a light in the darkness for me, his child, okay? For my daughter. And it allowed me to stay calm. It allowed me to keep the faith longer than I normally would have. I might have given up a lot faster. But I didn't, because it was light out and I could see what was going on around me, and that gave me that sense of control, or, ability to make decisions better. I wasn't as nervous. And so he had brought this to my memory the last 2 days, and my mind is just blown, because I never really comprehended how that happened. Because somebody had pointed it out earlier, around the time that it had happened. I was telling a coworker or a boss or somebody about the situation, and I do remember they questioned that part. They're like, but it was 11 o'clock at night. How was it daylight? And I never really thought much of it after that. It was like, well, I don't know, but it was, and I didn't think anything else. But he wanted me to share that with you, because he has been showing me the judgment that has fallen upon the earth lately, and a lot of it is people going through the exact same situation I did, through the floodwaters and getting stuck in their cars, and people losing their lives because of it. And so he just wants you to know that you might have to encounter situations like this in the future, and that his light will never go out, that he will always be with you in the middle of these situations, and he will perform miracle after miracle, even ones beyond our comprehension. Like how was it daylight for at least 2 hours, I'm gonna say. Like how? I don't know. So just have faith. No matter what situation he's going to bring you through, or you find yourself in, there is a light that never goes out. There is hope. Do not give in to the fear, okay? God says, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Keep believing. And no matter what happens, even if it ultimately, somebody loses their life, or you are going to, just keep that peace in your heart. Just know, you know where you're going. And if you don't, ask him to help you get right with him. It's better to be right with him before a situation like this happens than during that situation. So just remember that. There is a light that never goes out.